everyone, I'm Allison. Thanks for joining me for Where I'm From 111. Today, this week, today, Dave is joining me. He should be here momentarily. I'm going to invite him. I just recently reread The Hate You Give by Angie Thomas to talk about it with Tanya Todd and her esteemed guest on the Banned Books Conversations. And interestingly enough, the last time I spoke to Dave was so a little synchronicity that Banned Books. Dave, I'm approving your request. I've approved it for Taha. Yes.
Hey,
Hi, Dave.
Hey,
how are you?
you?
I'm good.
I'm good, thank you. Sorry, just sorting my camera out
That's
here.
right. I was just talking about how the last time we spoke was with Tanya and a banned book conversation.
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it? Because we've just had Banned Books Week again, just over a year.
Yeah. Time flies. Just to be cliched, time flies. It's been a year.
I know. I think the problem is it's always true because the older you get, the quicker time goes. It's just because everything that went before, there's more that you experienced this year than you had done last year. It's bizarre. So this time next year, it will still be time flying.
Yeah, it does. And I think, at least for me, having children is a real marker of how time is moving because they're changing so much and their lives are changing so much. And it's like, wow, like 3 months ago, you look different.
Yeah, no. They're a pretty good marker to make sure you feel old as well, you know. Mine are a constant reminder of that.
Mine too. Although Pamela Anderson, I don't know if you saw what she just said. She doesn't like the term aging. She likes the term living or something. And I was like, yeah, we're just living, like it's good.
If it's good for me, it's good enough for me.
Yes, that's right. So, Dave, anything you want to talk about, share before you read your poem? Some people like to just launch into it. Some people like to take a moment. It's really personal choice.
I think I'll just go ahead and launch it. Okay, let's go. So hopefully I'll not mess it up.
You won't. Whatever you do is perfect.
I am from terraced houses and cobbled streets, from the legends of mania and Mersey beats. I am from timeless sound and a musical brigade, born in the 70s, but the 80s was made. I am from childhood tainted by grief. From a brother's memory, I get no relief. From bridges connecting old and new, from second chances and starting anew. I'm a proud dad of a loving trio. In their teenage years, they continue to grow. I'm from parenthood's joys and cares, guiding them through life's uncharted affairs. I am from overthinking and smart-ass remarks, from not understanding the fire at sea parks. I am from dreams of galaxies far, far away, from where science meets fiction, from the tech of today. I am from living easy with eyes closed, from taking the red pills, it all gets exposed. I am from the present, the past, the stardust in space. From the long and winding road, a unique and curious place. There you go. Mine is not messed.
You did not mess up. That was wonderful. Thank you. So what was it like for you, Dave, writing the poem? It's been a minute, right? We were supposed to do it a while ago. It didn't work out. So you had some time to think about it.
Yeah. Life has, I think 2003, I think for everyone I speak to, life has been tough.
2023?
2023. Did I say 2003? I am in a loop. I am in a time loop at the minute. I must have said that like 10 times in the last few weeks. But yeah, so it just seems like all of the pandemic stuff is all behind us and life has not just got back to where it was, but it's accelerated because you've got all the technology, all of the being switched on 100% of the time, all the, jumping on calls like
Yeah.
this, team calls, works and everything. So yeah, unfortunately, I just didn't get the time to dedicate to it.
It's all right.
But I did plan in enough time, and it was hard. Not someone who writes for fun or anything like that, but what I have to do is I have to force myself. I have to time box things,
Mm-hmm.
and I'll start off. And so I started with just the template, and I looked at it, and I thought, what is it about me? And I'm not very good. I'm quite good at looking outwards,
Mm-hmm.
but not so much as looking inwards. And so that's quite tough to start to look inwards. And again, I start from the place of, well, what would anyone want to know? Probably nothing. And then you start to try and jot little ideas down and almost bullet points. And I guess you have that choice, don't you? You don't have to make it rhyming, but I think from an early age, when I used to write kind of literature at school and stuff, I liked a good rhyme, and I especially like the clever play on words and things like that. So yeah, obviously in mine, I did a bit of a play on the Beatles quite often. Borrowed some lyrics and nods here and there.
Yeah.
And John Lennon was one of the masters of playing on words. So actually it went from being really hard and daunting, going through a kind of journey of, okay, I've got some ideas, but actually no way to actually make it sound any good. And then there came like this weird enjoyment, where it's like, oh wow, and that really works. And there's a bit of a theme in each kind of chapter, if you like. And so I'm quite proud of where it ended up. The bit I wasn't looking forward to, really wasn't looking forward to reading out loud, was the bit about my brother. I really have not dealt with that ever. And I kind of, as soon as I start to think or talk about it, I don't deal with it. So I put it in its box and I shove it away. But actually, I probably, in going through this, just getting it down onto paper upset me, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
But then it was a weird kind of cathartic process as well. So I started to feel a bit better, and I'd still put the box away, but maybe not quite as quickly. And so this was all stuff that happened a long, long time ago. And again, I'm not particularly proud. I don't think it's a good thing that I've never dealt with it. But being a middle-aged bloke, I've kind of navigated life now without it, and I just don't know if I ever will. I don't know if you heal from things like that. So, but yeah, it was fun. Is the quick answer to your question. Going through.
No, I like the long
whole
answer. It was fun. Wouldn't really do the trick. I didn't know if you would mention your brother, because I just recently became aware that your brother had died. And it's interesting about the box, because I certainly, my brother died when I was 10. I just didn't have the space for it at that time, really. It was so devastating. And getting to know more people who've lost siblings, because I'm working on this anthology about sibling loss, it has been really eye-opening for me in a way, and has helped me feel less alone with these feelings that I've carried, because sibling loss is not one many people talk about. It's kind of the least talked about. And it does really affect you.
Yeah, it absolutely does. And like I say, this is something that happened decades ago now. But
yeah, me too.
It's interesting, we're different sides of the Atlantic, but there's people all over the world who go through this. But in that moment, you absolutely are, or you feel on your own. And I remember at the time feeling like, why can't I be like all my other friends at school and stuff? Why can't I have that boring life? But yeah.
Yeah. And if they knew, they were all so weird about it. I talked about another guest a while ago. Her mother died when she was a teenager, and It was just she just wanted to be a teenager. She
Yeah.
didn't want to be the girl with the dead mom, you
Yeah.
know? And then you also, I just felt I spent so much time, and I think most people who've grieved have felt this too, where you spend most of your time comforting other people. Like you don't even get to be sad, really. You just have to be like, no, 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 it's not that bad.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's right. I think you sacrifice yourself for other people. That's definitely how I felt.
So Christian saying something in the comments. I don't know if you see it.
I do.
I appreciate it too, Dave. So, I mean, because you could just come on, and that's nice. I think a virtual hug is good. Thank you, Christian. So, and there's hearts. It's sweet.
All right. Well,
I think there's less space in our society for men to make themselves emotionally vulnerable. So I appreciate that you did.
yeah.
So I just want to say that out loud.
It is, I guess, and another complete coincidence, but it is Men's Mental Health Awareness Day.
It is.
So complete coincidence, but I guess I do. Yeah, right. Yeah. Hey, everyone. So I became aware of it fairly recently that something like in our Western society,
Yes.
something like 3 times as many men take their own lives as women, and so we're a bit rubbish at talking about it and just being open and being vulnerable. So again, it kind of helps me to talk about it and put myself out there, and if that reaches one other person, then that's been worth it.
That's sort of my ethos, Dave. So I feel you. It's like
Yeah.
one person, you can't get too wrapped up in how many people. It's just like showing it's okay. It's okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like the world didn't shatter. You shared your feelings, and I just listened.
Yeah.
And it was okay. Yeah.
I'm sure Chris is going to give me some abuse about it.
You better not.
Yeah.
You can sick me on him. I can be ferocious. Just ask.
Up on that.
Yeah. Just ask my husband and children. I can be very ferocious. Especially when I'm defending people who've made themselves vulnerable. So, Chris, you've been warned.
So I am curious if you spotted all the pop culture references in there.
I was thinking I should have looked at it while you were reading it, but I wanted to be present, so I didn't want to look at it. I'm staying quiet. Good call. Good call, Chris. I was also thinking, Dave, I have to share this one in particular with my husband because he's a huge Beatles fan and John Lennon, and I think it would resonate with him more than it did.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I like the Beatles. Everyone likes the Beatles, but I still have a hard time telling the difference between John and Paul sometimes in some songs, so I know I'm not a true fan if I can't always tell.
Yeah.
It's hard sometimes. For me.
Yeah. No, definitely. But
you don't have to say that. It's not hard for you, I can tell.
Yeah, I did throw in so again, I think as you get older, you understand yourself a little bit more, especially if you are introspective at times. There's a series that's finished now. I don't know if it made it over to the US, the IT Crowd.
Yes.
I thought that was moderately funny when I first saw it, but then when I started working in IT more, I kind of understood, oh, right, this is, there's a lot of truth in this. And one of the things, just different personality types. And I recognized something in myself in one of the episodes where there was a bit of a tragedy that one of the characters is talking to his girlfriend, and she's an orphan, and she says at one time that her parent, she can tell him about what happened, but he must never ask her anything about it again. And he's the understanding person, and he says, okay, go on, tell me. And she says, oh, there was a tragic fire. And then she says, the fire at Sea Parks. Now, Sea Parks is a made-up thing, but it's kind of like SeaWorld.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you can see straight away that the brain is ticking away there, like a fire,
Mhm.
when in a place where you're surrounded by water.
Mhm.
And so for the whole episode, he's just obsessed with this thing and solving the puzzle on how could this happen? And he knows he can't ask the question. He can't ask her again because it'll really upset her. So he's busy in this little mental space where he's trying to solve the problem. And so I think I recognize that in myself, and I'm sure a lot of people who just once they get hooked with something and trying to solve a problem, that kind of becomes the most important thing, and you've got a kind of myopic focus on that thing. So yeah, that was a reference I threw in there because again, the CPOX reference will probably hit with about 0.0001% of the planet's population, but
Mhm. That's a Dave deep cut.
it is,
Anyone who knows you, yes.
yeah. Yeah.
Well, it makes sense that you would have pop culture references in your poem because that's how I first became introduced to you was comics in motion. And
Yeah, yeah. So it's good that Chris is on here because coming onto this, I was kind of thinking, I thought, oh, it's hard to think back. It was probably 2018-ish that Chris and I had been in a band for years, and then we'd kind of lost touch for about 10 years after that, and we both independently started different podcasts. You know, Chris was doing initially a personal fitness thing, then started looking at more PlayStation games and things. And then I was doing like a grassroots football. I was coaching my daughter's team at the time.
mm-hmm.
Oh, there we go. Reminded me, it's February 2018, the first episode. But 2017 was when I went on Chris's show to just talk about my history with video games and stuff and all the different consoles. And even though we both had independent podcasts, we realized, hang about this, there's a chemistry here that isn't there with when you speak to anyone. And so we thought, we should do something. And at the time, there was a lot of comic book movies and stuff, and there weren't a bajillion podcasts that talked about it as there are now. And so we thought, let's that, and we'll just, we'll go through some new stuff, some old stuff. And yeah, and then we realized we're both terrible at not creating new podcasts. So we ended up creating all these different projects, and some of them are in the bin now, and some of them we carry on. But then somewhere along the way, I think about 2019, 2020, we decided that because the diversity of comic books, because we talk about comic books as if they're a genre,
Yeah.
but there are so many genres within that.
Yeah.
But this can be a lot bigger than us, and so I really wanted it to be more of a community project than just Chris and I talking once a week.
Mm-hmm.
And so, the likes of Tony got on board, Mike Burton came on, and it's just grown and grown from there. And so I think initially we were thinking, oh, we could have like a show every day of the week, whereas now it's kind of people kind of dip in and out, when they're interested in something, but I still love the fact it's got that real community feel. So
yeah,
it's one of the proudest things I've done, I think, and certainly in that kind of hobby arena.
Yeah, it's quite a community. I mean, how many different podcasters or community members are there at this point?
That would be a great question for you to ask. I mean, there must be.
Where's your press kit, Dave?
Yeah, there must be on the order of 20.
Yeah, I would think so.
Yeah. And again, it started with like a very small community, maybe a handful of people, 5 or 6 people. And then, as it's grown, I'm pretty sure it'd be about 20. And obviously the Discord group's always quite active. I must admit, I can't always keep up to date. Sometimes I'll finish work and I'm like, oh, I can't.
I know. I actually have been really busy, and for productivity's sakes, took it off my phone. I was like, I can't, you all, especially the women in Femon, you can message me, where I am.
Yeah.
So, who are the people who I feel like I must respond to immediately? Because I'm amazed at the amount of messages that can happen.
Yeah. what I love about it is, if you go on Twitter or X, as it's always going to be Twitter, but you
Yeah,
have,
I can't call it X. That's
yeah.
just ridiculous.
But I don't know what it is, but it's got worse. Definitely more
Oh yeah,
toxicity in the
for sure.
last year or
Yeah.
so. So I really have to limit my time, and so, but also going back to the CPOC thing, if I pull on a thread, I can't help myself but
Hmm.
pull more thread, and it's not great from a mental health perspective. You're not, when you surround yourself with friends and people that are, similar belief systems than you, and it's fine to be challenged. But when people are just throwing out stuff there that's not a challenging perspective, it's just ignorant and
Rubbish.
yeah, rubbish. And you think, I just can't be dealing with this. So having that corner of the universe that you can kind of go to get riled up and angry about, to go into, an area like our comics in motion community where, everyone's supportive, everyone's respectful as well. I could probably count on one hand sometimes, but if you get any group of adults, and especially if you get an inflammatory topic, you can get a few little causes of friction there. But I really think of any. So everyone's so good at, like, I don't even want to say policing themselves, but just, being respectful, I would say.
Yes. Yes. So that's quite an accomplishment. You broke up there for a tiny bit, but I think I caught it all. Anything else, Dave, before we wrap up?
No, I just want to thank you for asking me on.
Of
Like I
course.
say, I've been through that whole uh, journey of emotions, being completely daunted by it to actually, by the end, I'd kind of go back to what George Lucas said ages ago. You never finish a movie, you just stop working on it. And I kind of feel like that is probably the case with this poem. So it's one of those that I might shelve for a bit, but I love the format. It
Mm-hmm.
is
Me
good,
too.
and listening to the previous guests that you've had on, they're always so unique, and they're so different. And so I'd like to shelve mine and then try and revisit it and see if I come up with something completely different, rather than keep tinkering with one
Yeah.
version.
Yeah, I have done that. I've done other ones, and
Yeah.
I'm trying to do one a year. That's sort of my thing
Right.
to myself. My birthday's at the beginning of the year, so I try to kind of do it there, and I found it really interesting. I'm hoping one of these days it's going to be a more happy one.
Yeah.
So far, no luck. But if I keep doing it,
Yeah.
I'll get there eventually. Thank you, Chris, for being here. You just said thanks for the chat.
Yeah.
So thank you, Dave. And just thanks for
Yeah.
everything. Bye,
Yeah.
everyone.
Thanks. Bye now.
Bye.